Welcome to the Southern Report. Thank you so much for giving me your time. This is a very special conversation I'm about to record with a friend of mine in Israel. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on Matty Zwaig, and we are going to have a conversation and an update. Matty, first of all, thank you so much, my friend, for joining me. It is so good to see you by the digital media, and it was also so good to meet you last November in Israel. So thank you, my friend. And my opening comment is, how are you?
I'm okay. First of all, thank you for calling me. It's not for granted that this continuous conflict still is important for you and for many people, because I think it's like a Gordian knot that has to be untied to have a brighter future, and not what we have today and what has been in all these last years. So, in a personal way, I'm okay. I mean, my body's okay, my mind is okay. I'm very tired from running 6, 7, 8 times a day to the shelter. We saw our neighbors, and it's frustrating too, because as a person that has been soldier in at least 5 wars in the past, to be sitting and waiting for something to drop on your head, it's not easy. But we are, I think, we trust the forces of defense of Israel, and people don't understand when they say Israel attacks here and attacks there. Don't understand that the name Force of Defense of Israel is because they are defending Israel. They are not attacking anyone, even if it is a preemptive attack, which is a kind of defending yourself for not to be harmed in a bigger way in the future. And that's what is happening. I mean, in Israel, its country was more than 10 million people, with 75% Jewish and 25% non-Jewish. And they are all Israelis, the Jewish and the Christians and the Muslims and the Circassians and Druze and everybody. And if you talk to people, not only in my building or in the neighbor building, but also in the Druze, in the Bedouin, in every place, they will say, Israel didn't finish with Iran. They must finish them because this is a minute. They are threatening our existence, not threatening our way of behaving with Gaza or our way for behaving with the neighbors. This is an existential threat that has been not even, it's not a hidden threat. They say publicly every time our target is to wipe off the state of Israel from the face of the earth. So this is something that people, don't understand. They think it's just words. We are talking about a country that was founded only 3 years after 6 million people of our 15 million people in all the world, Jewish people, was exterminated. It's like, what would average English think if in some years a foreign power will come and assassinate 20 million English? How would you feel after 1 year, 10 years, 70 years? The same, an enormous fear and hatred toward the people that did to you. In our case, and it's a kind of miracle, and we made our amendments, and because of the behavior of Germany, we live not only in peace, but even in cooperation even knowing that from all the changes that have been in Europe, they are still the first to defend the right of Israel to exist. And this is not happening with Iran. Iran believes that they are supreme, their ideology is supremacist, jihadist. It means to go by war in all the world to obliterate their enemies, which means all which who is not a Muslim religious and is Shiite especially. So this is only the first step, because the second step is also to obliterate all the rest, all the Christians, everybody that they don't like them or don't agree with them. So if you have such a not group of people, or even not a religious group of people, but a state that is organized with weapons and with budgets, and that's what they want to do with their life. So for sure, 95 to 97% of all the Israelis, even the ones that don't like the government at all, everybody thinks that this regime must finish. And they are entitled to have a lot of beautiful Iranian people from the 80-something million that live there are entitled to have, I don't know if a big democracy, but a stable country who respects individual rights and the rights of the minorities. They have like 25 minorities there. Some are only 50 to 70,000 people, and some are 9 million or 12 million, like the Azeris, like the Kurds. So it must be another future. And also for Trump, of course, is part of his policy, because in the same way, when he's shooting Iranians, he's also shooting the possibility of giving more help to Russia and China. And this is another thing, a geopolitical thing that also Israel understands, but is not a real part of it, because it doesn't want to confront Russia or China. But America, the United States, they know what they are doing. If they are diminishing the power of this regime, even if this regime is not going to change very fast, it's going to be better for everybody for years to come. So you told me, how are you? I am like everybody, fearing the missiles, and also resilient, and also hopeful, and with the help of our forces and the Lord, I'm sure we are going to win, and we're going to have a brighter future. Everybody understand that.
Amen, Matty. I have to say to you that a couple of days ago, it was very humbling when I received a message from a friend of mine in Jerusalem, and who just said that the Israeli people are prepared to go through this because they want to see the people in Iran free, and also backing up with what you've said. And it was very humbling to read that. And I don't take this conversation for granted, because it's not about we're dealing with human beings. I'm dealing with what you are going through and what your countrymen, men and women, are going through. And you use a very, very important word, which is the resilience. And it's something that I have noticed being over there twice last year, and just totally and utterly admire the resilience. But also, as you referring to, as you say, from 1948, and with your own military experience, that is where this resilience come from, because it's all, every time there's an attack, it's it's about wiping you off the face of the earth, and that's what is at the center of what Iran believes in. Matty, you talk about the makeup of Iran, which is also fascinating, because I don't think enough people outside your region understand that either, do they?
Well, if we are talking about the history of Iran, they have a marvelous history. And not always it has been, their warriors, they were very cruel, all the in the Persian history. And they also didn't treat very nice their adversaries, but they developed also a kind of civilization that has many, many good things in terms of society, in terms of science, in terms of teaching the people, and also they were really a great empire that, of course, faded out with all the changes in the history, like all empires, and they shrink a little bit, and still they have a very big nation country today, which is host to almost 90 million people, and also to about 23 to 25 minorities. And they have different customs and different food and different clothes and different languages, but they are all inside Iran. They used to be equally and democratically quite oppressed by the Shah Pahlavi before 79, and that's why there was a lot of criticism, because they were quite Western oriented, but this took a big price. And then was this big mistake by Valéry Giscard d'Estaing in France, giving backup to all these clerics and extremists that they thought they are going to change him for better, because he was willing to cooperate with leftist parties, even the Communist Party that was very important in that time in the 70s in Iran, of course, under the influence of the USSR in that time. And they thought they are going to be together for good, and they're going to do a new country that is more balanced and without oppression. Of course, it was exactly the opposite. When the Shiite clerics took real power there, then they started, the first they did was to assassinate communists. And then they went for minorities that they didn't like the Zoroastrians, like the Baha'is. They killed 100,000 Baha'is. Nobody talk about this. This is twice everything that we have seen in every other war in the area, in Gaza. Nobody care about that. Who escaped, and who didn't escape just became an extremist or a Muslim, like everybody, they wanted everybody to be. And also with other minorities called the Lords, the Azeris, that they were quite also close to them, and even they were part of the army and everything in this 8-year war against Iraq, who cost about 1 million people. And all these atrocities that they started and they continue grabbing the power more and more through parallel armies, because they have two parallel armies. One is the IRGC, which are the revolutionary guardians of the ideology, and then you have the Basij, which is a parallel police to enforce their morals and the Sharia and the hanging of homosexuals in public places, and then beating and killing women for not using the hijab or niqab or whatever. And this terrible regime also was completely bad developing the economy. They also failed in everything. You have a lot of dictators in the world that they maintain themselves because they knew how to oppress, but at the same time they were stable economically or even blooming sometimes. But this one, they are also oppressing, killing, torturing their own people, and also failed economically. And why? Because mainly, besides corruptions, like in a lot of countries, they also were given dozens of billions of dollars over the years to all their proxies in order to conquer other places, in order to help them to erase Israel from the face of the earth, like the Hamas, like the Houthis, like Hezbollah mainly, and also in Syria and in South Iraq with the pro-Iranians. They were wasting the resources, not investing for the people in nothing, only in weapons and also in some precise missiles, which they are very good and pioneers in the world for certain technologies, but that's all. You cannot keep a country united under a couple of industries. You must to keep them socially united. If you are only oppressing, in some moment is going to implode, like USSR. Finally, they implode. Nobody went there to conquer there. There were no boots on the ground from the States or Europe. They implode into themselves because of their own failures. And that's what they are trying to do now, helping them to implode from inside, because we are in a border that cannot be crossed from the societal development of this regime. So this was the moment to do it. And I think Trump and Israel, they were at the high of the circumstances and doing now what they have to do, because there was no alternative, considering that they knew that they are not going to respect any negotiations or any results.
Especially because it's totally and utterly existential, and that is what's on the table. That's been on the table since the 7th of October 2023, and of course, well before that, Matty. You and I in our exchanges, I've been sending you stuff about, and you also back about what's happening and the reaction to all this outside Israel, outside the Middle East, in regard to the UK, for argument's sake. I just wondered if we've been exchanging some things. Some of those we won't repeat, as is a bit of a family show. But Matty, I just wondered if you wanted to make any comments on that, because I know you and I certainly have.
Do you mean about the role of Europe?
Yep. And the reaction, say, from the UK, all the other countries around, and their reaction to this, that borders on being extremely mealy-mouthed. And of course, from your experience, diplomatically, your travels, I'd just like to hear your opinion, sir.
Well, first I must say that I believe in diplomacy. I must tell you this not because I believe that diplomacy is the only way, but because I believe that this is a very powerful tool for 3 different stages of engagement and conversation with the other side. And the first one is a public one. Different countries, they talk to each other diplomatically until they don't. I mean, like, I don't know, Turkey and Israel, everyone called their ambassador, summon him and tell him that you are really behaving very bad, and they do it publicly, and the same Erdogan do it in Istanbul, and it's all the time very public, and this only to show their own people and also other powers what do I think about what to do with the other side. And this is the first part. But then you have a second part that is mixed, publicly and not public, that from one side you give all kind of interviews or statements or communique or things like that in all kind of themes, and then under the table you are trying all kind of secret meetings to make things better at all levels, if it's a prime minister level or president or ministers or the I don't know, the secret services. And this is a very big part, secret services, they are talking to each other all the time, even between enemies, even between people that they were friends and now they are not so friends, like the secret services from Turkey and Israel. A lot of people is talking to each other because they know that what they can get from each other is much more important than some public audience or some interview on some TV. This is it's not nice to say, but it's like, amusement for the public. Like to say, I'm talking to you, I'm informing you, but I'm not really informing you. I'm just trying to calm you down. Or not. Or making you think that you must be very nervous because we need to attack other country or whatever. But it's not the real thing. And then you have a third channel, diplomatic channel, that they are really make diplomats give messages from one to the other, and try to see what kind of reactions. And this is added to the second part that I told you. And this is the great thing about diplomacy, that you cannot circumvallate it and say, okay, today you have emails and phones, and so why don't you just call them and finish the thing? It's not like that. Those are processes. There are things on the ground that they are happening. If one secret service know that the other is taking care because some nuclear equipment has been stolen, believe me, they are going to cooperate, because both don't want this to be in some wrong hands, even if they are enemies, or even if they. So all these things, the diplomats can help about this when they are in other countries, and giving the proper messages in a proper way, not only in some phone or some email. So this is still relevant. But then you collect all the information, you put it on the table, you give to the decision makers to make decisions, and then they have to decide. And then that's what's happening. Then, in the case of Trump, all the signs is that it's very important to understand, not that he listened to 100 people, but if he really is listening to 4 or 5 people around him that he trusts, and it looks that he doesn't trust so many people. So, but this is a personal thing, because today you have Trump, before you had Biden, before you had Obama or Bush, and everyone was behaving different. And in the future also, you know, and then sometimes you have like an enlightenment. You say all the time, what would happen if Kamala Harris would win? And then you understand that maybe it's going to be more of the same, because with all these big apparatus of the administrative and military, she cannot do a lot of things. But then you listen Kamala Harris saying a couple of days ago that you shouldn't attack Iran because they are a sovereign country, or we shouldn't try to change their regime. And then you say, not only that this is strange to listen, I mean, who can believe her? You cannot believe such a person, because you understand that they are harming a lot of American interests. So are you only caring about Iranian interests? Even the current Iranian interests of this current regime is strange. And so, thanks God, he wasn't, elected. And I'm not saying this as a pro-Republican or pro-Democrat, but like an Israeli that understand that things must change in some way. And now about Europe. All this was for talking to Europe, about Europe. And Europe also has their own. Well,
sorry about that. Sorry about that, my friend.
it's-
There's a bit of a technical glitch my end. Certain people might have not liked our conversation. Who knows? But you were just into Kamala Harris. What would have happened if she had won, etc., etc. And then you were about to get into Europe, my friend. So go for it.
I mean, what I said about Kamala Harris is not personal against her. I don't know if she's a great person or she likes lettuce with avocado. I don't know. But I know that this behavior could have also influenced all the decisions that suddenly changed completely when Donald Trump came and talked about Europe not as an enemy, but as a partner that he doesn't like anymore. And this is really very hard to listen, really. It's his style, but he was saying maybe right things, like, if I put, 20% of my budget to defend you, at least try to raise your budget from 1-2% to 4-5.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what he say. I mean, he's talking with the logic of maybe a business person, but very logical from every point of view that you look at it. And then It's also good for Europe because they can have a kind of defense independence too, doing their own things and maybe defending themselves better. It can be even a competition for the future sales of weapons of the states. But anyway, he took everything into account to say these things. I think, and it's also a cultural battle that he thinks that Europe have changed for wrong values. They say it's okay that you are democratic, but it's not okay that you are receiving in your country such a giant quantity of influx of immigrants that they are not really adding to your economy, but just taking money and maybe changing some cultural values like Christian values or Western values. And one of the things that also he said, and more clearly said his deputy Vance, was about letting all local laws to become, in a lot of cases, Sharia laws, for instance. And why you should put Sharia as part of your judicial system when it's clearly undemocratic or anti-democratic laws that they are against individualist values and rights. So all these as a package, I think, move a lot inside all these European societies and countries. And what we see today is a kind of revenge that, okay, you are all the time complaining about me. I'm not going to give you automatically my support. And this is very bad, of course, for the NATO point of view and the partnership, but also because of what are also the targets of diminishing the power of Iran. And what is also something that can match also the European policies, like diminishing Iran's power is diminishing also Russian power, is diminishing Chinese power. So why do they see eye to eye in those themes? This is very strange. But anyway, what we see with the facts on the ground is that Starmer say no, and then he say yes, and then he say no again to let the states use Diego Garcia as a launching pad to the Middle East, what is clearly a very good place as a launching pad, and not giving now all the power to say no to Mauritius, with all my respect, a Muslim country. So this is one thing, because you don't see Starmer so eager to run and give back Falklands to Argentinians or other places. So why this exactly? And the same now, he's going to put a couple of vessels in front of Cyprus in case Iran is going to throw some drones to the area. I mean, it looks like a joke, sorry. And also about France. I mean, the way that Macron has been behaving, yes, I support, but no, I don't support. But I am for this, I am not for that. Now, moving nuclear warheads. Really, Macron? Moving nuclear warheads? So you give an excellent excuse also for not using them, and also to tell Putin, move yours, and menace us, threaten us, because we are moving for nothing nuclear warheads. I mean, everything is upside down. Europe is trying to, I understand, the internal politics. From one side, you have the internal politics of, from the other side, when you see the European Parliament now, it's like 60% right or extreme right. So everything is changing. They must look to common decisions about what to do. But in the meanwhile, they are doing things very wrong in my point of view.
I fully agree with you, and you don't have to apologise when it comes to making any comment about what's going on in the UK, my friend. I know that, you know me very well, but the fact is, it is disgusting, and I'll just make a comment on that. Okay, Akatiri base has been fired upon twice, and sadly people injured there, but that's happened. You then decide to put a boat in between that and Turkey, Israel on that side of the island, or maybe elsewhere. there'll be another, Turkey may say you're not going to be in those waters. But the key is, I'll turn around and say, that's very interesting. You could do that, but you can't put the Navy in the channel to stop the illegal immigration that is coming over into this country. And under his regime, as we call it, from the 4th of July 2024, I think we're up to something like 55,000 illegals that have come over on rubber dinghies, a small army, because I don't see the women and the children. I just see groups of men that have come over here. Then Europe, you're absolutely right. J.D. Vance's comment at the Munich Security Conference last year, Rubio, slightly watered down in the way it's said, but it's exactly the same. They are very concerned about how Europe is going. And you quite rightly, when you've said about the demographics changing, let's just be honest, that's true. We've just had a by-election over here, as you know, and how that's then playing out, because it's playing out to people that are then following Islam in this country, in certain areas of this country. And it looks like becoming sectarian in how those votes are carried out. We have to be honest and just say that. And when I am listening to you, my dear friend, when you're talking about the strength of civic society within Israel, that is what's holding it together. I mourn for that, because I do not see that immediately over here, even though I think deep down it's there, ready to come out within the UK, and how the direction of travel that we could be going in, which is not going to be it's not going to be easy, but we have got to face this. And our politicians, it's not just the Labour government, the previous 14 years of a so-called Tory government or Liberal Democrats, lunatics, they've just been the same. They've been the same. People have voted to ask for change, to defend our borders, and they have not done that. Matty, I'll say to you honestly, you've heard me say it, I've said it, that on one level I feel safer in Israel because of the strength of your civic society, because you know what you are facing, and you are and because at various times, of course, existential threat to you. And we don't have time, but we only would, like, if we go back to the founding of the nation on the 14th, 15th of May 1948, and then look at the countries that was building up before then, the year before, but just out to attack you at that time. Because there's so much revisionist history. And Matty, I'll say this, over here, right, and also in Australia, I think it's also being held in America as well. You've then got people gathering together to mourn the death of the Ayatollah that has just been taken out within minutes on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. After we have not seen the left on the street in regard to the brave Iranian people, from 35,000, maybe even up to 90, 100,000 of people that have been literally exterminated in genocide on the streets of Iran. It's despicable. Where have these people been? Matty, I'm just going to be quiet, because you know how strong I feel about that, because it's true. I think
it's not only true. It's not only true. It's something that everybody can see today in the social media. I mean, I know there are a lot of fake news, but you cannot hide the real joy of incredible things now that they're happening. Like Iranians from all the world, they are dancing and chanting in the streets together with Israelis or with local Jewish, and with flags of the previous Iran before 79, and the Israeli flag and the American flags. And you can see also that all those countries around Iran, they cannot believe even that they have American bases. They cannot believe that Iran decided to shoot them, and to shoot their civilians, and to shoot their hospitals, and to shoot their hotels. And when this pilot from F-22. I think he jumped from his plane because it was on fire yesterday, and he landed and he went to the beach in Bahrain. And people say they came to him and say, "Are you okay? Are you safe? Believe me, we are with you. Thank you, thank you." I mean, these are things that you cannot believe. Probably
No,
these people
absolutely.
is even Shiite, because most of the people in Bahrain, they are Shiite.
Mm,
So it's an incredible shift. They understand that in all the countries, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, even in Qatar, we
mm,
saw this strange behavior. Even in Oman, that they were also not here, not there, and in Saudi Arabia, everybody understands that the real threat for the world is Iran, Israel or not Israel.
mm,
So this is a big shift in the thinking of the people. So it's like saying, continue what you are doing, try to diminish their force to rubble, to nothing. So it will take 15, 20 years so they recover. And maybe let's the Iranian people, the wonderful Iranian people,
mm.
and I don't say this like that. I personally studied in the UK. My master was done there, and a wonderful university. And we had Iranians also studying there from UK, from Canada. Young people, not old people that they left before 79. Nine people that they were born and in the 80s or 90s they passed to other countries, and they were so happy. 7 years ago when I was there, that I am Israeli, that maybe we are going to work together like we worked in the past. Everybody forget that until 79, there were about 20,000 Israelis working in Iran. They were building the roads, the airports, and a lot of things with there's a famous company in Israel called Solel Boneh, which did a lot of roads and hospitals and everything in the 60s, 70s in Asia and in African countries. So we had wonderful relationship and between the peoples and between the musicians and poets and writers and everything. So it's also the hope for a better future for our people and for their people. And I think this must be the message. People don't understand in the world is not right or wrong, black or white. This is a gray world, and you must take the best of it to have hope for the future and to have faith.
mm. Amen. Matty, I hear you. I hear you. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I think you need a little bit of a rest and maybe a few more coffee cups. But bless you. I wish I could actually be there right now. We can just sit and down and have a good coffee and a good chinwag. Is there anything else you want to say? I mean, other than I just want to urge everyone to be praying for what is going on right now, to be praying for Israel, for praying for the peace and the prosperity of Jerusalem and Israel and the surrounding countries. And what you've said is really quite profound in the fact that Iran, within a very short space of time, it didn't just attack one country, which was Israel, it then attacked another 7 around it. If not, we might even see just a bit more than that. It's quite incredible, but also, as you said, people's reaction to that, and that reaction, I think, has also been quite miraculous, as you have said. Matty, is there anything else that you want to say? It's just been an
Just that
amazing
everything
conversation.
comes from the power of love, from the power of love to your country, but especially to your daughters and sons and granddaughters and grandsons, and the power of love that everybody that lives normal life and wants to continue living a normal life, the resilience of the people that they know they have to wake up in the morning, continue working, continue building this wonderful country, and continue to help other countries to blossom too. And I think Israel must and have showed this through the history, so their inventions, so their technicians, so their all their companies and the technology and everything, and medicine and a lot of things that can be done for the humanity. what we call tikkun olam, to fix the world, is to fix ourselves and also help to fix the world. And I hope that we are going through that future.
Amen, my friend. And my prayer also is for you that, unlike many of your countrymen at the moment, that you're not having to rush to the bomb shelters as much as you have been.
Thank you.
And as I've said, it's very humbling to hear that. Matty, I'm going to play us out. I'll say goodbye to you on the other side, but I cannot thank you enough for your time, my friend. So it's just been a real honor to have this conversation.
It's for me an honor to have you and to have the possibility to get to other people to understand that this light. And let's not forget that today is Purim, that 2,500 years ago, the Jewish people was celebrating the defeat of the Persians, and they are doing these days today. I hope in the Passover we are not having problems with the Egyptians.
I hear you big time. And in all seriousness, that's something else to pray about, because we look at their military build up on the border there. That's not to be taken for granted at all. We need to be paying close attention to that. But Matty, thank you for ending it on that note, because it confirms the historical history of Israel. And you've just said it brilliantly. And none of us, with all the events that are going on, 2.5 that all these years, we need to pay attention to that in regard to God's timing. So it's incredible. All right, my friend. Speak to you soon. Stay there. Take care.
Thank you for calling me.